Hi guys, welcome to Little Wicket Railway. I'm Rob, and in this video we're looking at Hornby's Great Western Railway's high-speed train set. Before we start, a quick shout out to Josh. This video is for you. I hope you enjoy. This is Hornby reference R1230M, and it's listed on the Hornby website for £119.99. However, you can get this from most retailers for around about £100. This is a relatively modern train and one that's still in service today. I'm generally a fan of old-fashioned steam, but when I saw the Great Western Green and the GWR logo on the iconic Intercity 125, I couldn't resist buying it. As I said, these are still running down in the southwest around Cardiff and Bristol, and I always think it's nice to own a model of something you can still ride on today. Great Western has these running as 6-car sets with 2 Class 43s on either end and 4 Mark III coaches between them. Anyway, back to the train set. Let's open it up and see what we get inside. As we've seen with some of the more recent Hornby train sets, this comes in the pulp tray, and again, I really like this. I think it's superior to the polystyrene trays. The model seems better protected and there's less chance of the tray breaking. So inside the box we've got our track work there, we've got our power supply and controller, we've got a re-railer, and then we've got the train. So we've got 2 power cars and a coach. So let's start by taking a closer look at the power cars. You get 2 power cars in the set, one which contains the motor and the decoder socket, and that's got running number 43005, and a dummy car which doesn't contain a motor, it's just there to complete the look of the set, and that's got running number 43016. The Class 43 power cars are really iconic on British Railways, and I think they look really nice in the Great Western green colour, and they've got the classic yellow nose on there as well. The handrails and the handles have all been painted to stand out. We've got glazing around the cab and in the rear door windows, although I did notice the cab glazing does move around slightly and it doesn't seem to be a very secure fit. If you're looking at this and thinking the train seems really familiar, and I'm sure I've seen a Hornby model just like it, well, you probably have. Hornby are releasing versions of this set since the Intercity 125 came into existence in the 70s. You may have seen it in the Virgin, GNER or classic Intercity Swift branding. Really, it's only the GWR livery that's new on this one. Or you might be thinking of the GWR Class 43 train pack, which came out not too long ago, and this was produced from improved tooling and is really detailed. And this was also reflected in the price for £289.99. I'm sorry to say that this isn't the version we're getting in this set. I believe this one was made using the old Lima tooling. Just because the tooling's old doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I actually think this is a really good quality model. However, there are a few things about this set which have me scratching my head, and this brings us on to the first. If this is the model from the Lima tooling, then why have they put a picture of a model from the old Hornby tooling on the box? This is a Hornby made Class 43 from the late 80s, and you'll see that it looks a lot more like the picture than the one that came in the box does. Anyway, I'm not complaining. I think the Lima version actually looks a lot better. Whilst we're comparing these two versions, let's move on to the second thing that's making me scratch my head. The old Hornby version had lights in both power cars at either end, and that makes sense because this train can go in either direction. And this new version also has lights in it, but only in the power car which contains the motor. I don't know whether this is cost cutting or laziness, but it feels like a step backwards. If Hornby could manage to put lights in the dummy car in the 80s, why couldn't they do it today? The train in this set is DCC ready, pre-fitted with a decoder socket, which is great for those of us with digital layouts. And Hornby also manufacture a TTS sound decoder pack, which comes with 2 decoders and 2 speakers, presumably because they expect you to fit one in either end of your train in each power car, which would, in reality, they both have engines. However, and this is the third thing that leaves me scratching my head, Hornby didn't put a decoder socket, just like they didn't put lights, in the dummy car, which means you can only use one of the sound decoders in this train. How hard would it have been for Hornby to have just put a decoder socket in the dummy car so that you could make full use of that sound decoder pack? Alternatively, they could have started selling the sound decoders as individuals. Anyway, let's take a look at the coach. So in this set you get one Mark III coach, and I believe it's based on the old Lima or Railroad Mark III tooling. Again, it's in that Great Western Railways green with a matte finish. It's got the Great Western Railways and the First Group Company branding on it. It's got running number 42250. The doors and the rails have been painted. The windows are slightly tinted, but you can see that there's some sort of interior in there. This coach comes with the older style slam doors. In terms of detail, there's an acceptable amount on here, but you're missing some things like the coach number or the door open indicator. The couplings are the standard wider couplings. So overall, really happy with the coach. But what if you want to add more coaches to your set, maybe turn it into the 6-car set that's running around Cardiff and Bristol at the moment? Well, this leads us on to the fourth thing that's got me asking, why Hornby? Hornby don't produce any coaches in that livery, in that style of coach. They do produce Mark III coaches in Great Western Railways livery, but they're far more detailed and they look very different. Just so you can see the difference, here are a few photos of the new Mark III Great Westerns with the sliding door mechanism. You'll see they come in a gloss finish and there's far more detail around the doorways and the bogies. Hornby may yet release a railroad version of the Great Western Railways liveried Mark III. However, you've got to ask yourself, if they were going to do that, they'd have probably done it around the same time that they were releasing this set, because people would want to make their trains longer. In terms of track, Hornby have been pretty generous here. You get the standard looper track with track pack A. But the final head scratcher here, why did they include track pack A, which is a siding with a buffer stop, when it can't fit the full train in? Why couldn't they have swapped track pack A for track pack B, which contains a siding which would have been able to fit the full train in? Anyway, let's take a look at the controller. And it's a type I've never seen before. The main thing that's interested me is a little switch on the back, which says high-low. Apparently, it allows you to switch to slow speed control if you flick it onto the low setting. The other nice thing about this controller is that it's got a 14-volt output for controlling accessories as well. So now might be a good time to put the train on the track and try out the new controller with the high-low speed setting. There's no point putting this train on the rolling road because you won't see anything, so I've laid out the track mat and set up a small test track. So let's start by putting this on half power. And we're running nice and smoothly. That's a reasonable speed for half power. Let's try turning it down and see how slow we can get. Even slightly below half power and it kind of comes to a stop, and going really slowly it makes quite a loud noise. Okay, let's turn it up to the max, and yeah, very quick there. Staying on the track though, which is a good thing. So let's try flicking the high-low switch on medium power, and it basically brings the train to a halt. I'll try turning up, so we're on 3/4 power now, and we're moving again. I'll try turning up to full power. So I can see how this might be useful for reducing the top speed, especially if you're having children play with this who might just be tempted to turn it up to the max each time. But in terms of doing what it said it would do and improving low speed control, I don't think it really improved things. The low speed control was basically the same, you just had to turn the dial a bit further to get it to move. So now we've seen everything, what do we think? Well, overall I really like this train set, but I'm not sure I understand some of Hornby's decision making when they put this together. The Class 43s look really nice, it's DCC ready and it runs really smoothly. But why couldn't they have put lights and a decoder socket in the dummy car? And why is there a picture of a completely different model on the box? The coach is an acceptable standard, but if you want to expand your train into a more realistic version, then you're in trouble. You can buy the more detailed versions of the coaches, but as we've seen, they look completely different. You get a good quantity of track, but including a siding that doesn't fit the train doesn't really make sense to me. So overall, if you can pick this up for around about £100, it's a good value train set. And if you don't mind all the things I've just told you about, then I say go for it. Maybe just pick up track pack B at the same time. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give me a like and a subscribe. As usual, I will leave you with some shots of the Great Western Railways high-speed train flying around Little Wicket. Thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you again soon.